There's a pattern in history that has ended three global superpowers over the last 500 years. And in 2025, the United States is showing signs that resemble that pattern in ways that are difficult to ignore. In 1590, Spain was the richest empire on earth. It controlled vast territories across Europe and the Americas. Ships delivered hundreds of tons of silver every year. Its military dominated. Its currency circulated across continents. Yet within 80 years, Spain entered repeated bankruptcies and began a long, irreversible decline. In 1914, Britain ruled the largest empire in human history. The pound sterling was the global reserve currency. London was the financial capital of the world. Within 40 years, 2 world wars drained its strength. The empire dissolved, the currency weakened. Britain survived, but its dominance ended. In 1991, the Soviet Union possessed nuclear weapons, global influence, and control over half of Europe. Yet within 900 days of the Berlin Wall falling, the Soviet state itself ceased to exist, not defeated by invasion, but undone by internal economic strain. Different centuries, different systems, same structural sequence. Imperial collapse does not begin with invasion. It begins with economic overextension. At first, everything looks stable, the currency works, the military appears strong, institutions function, but beneath the surface, pressure builds, commitments multiply, costs expand, debt rises, productive capacity shifts elsewhere, social cohesion weakens, and gradually the strengths that once created dominance begin turning into liabilities. Spain followed this exact pattern. After conquering the Americas, Spain flooded Europe with silver. Annual imports reached over 400 tons by 1600. This wealth financed wars across multiple fronts against the Ottoman Empire, France, the Netherlands, and England. Stage 1 was military overextension. Spain fought wars across 4 continents simultaneously. Half of its revenue went to defense. Stage 2 was currency debasement. To stretch silver supplies, coins were mixed with copper. Inflation surged. Stage 3 was the debt spiral. Spain declared bankruptcy 4 times between 1557 and 1596. Stage 4 was loss of productive capacity. Instead of building industry, Spain imported goods. Wealth flowed in and flowed straight back out. Stage 5 was social and economic stagnation. When silver production declined, the system collapsed. Spain did not disappear overnight, but its peak was over. Now Britain. By 1900, Britain controlled 25% of the world's land and 400 million people. But World War I forced massive borrowing, primarily from the United States. Stage 1 was again military overextension. Global commitments became financially unsustainable. Stage 2 was currency pressure. Britain attempted to restore the gold standard at pre-war levels in 1925. The pound became overvalued. Industry suffered. By 1931, Britain abandoned gold. The pound fell sharply. Stage 3 was debt accumulation. World War II added enormous financial strain. By 1945, Britain's debt exceeded 200% of GDP. Stage 4 was imperial contraction. India gained independence in 1947. Over the next 20 years, most colonies followed. Stage 5 was loss of reserve dominance. The dollar replaced the pound as the global reserve currency. Britain did not collapse into chaos. It transitioned into a smaller but stable nation. Yet its era of supremacy ended. Then came the Soviet Union. During the Cold War, military spending consumed an estimated 15% to 20% of GDP, far higher than its economic base could support. Stage 1 was military overextension across Europe, Afghanistan, Africa, and Asia. Stage 2 was economic stagnation. Central planning slowed innovation, productivity declined. Stage 3 was currency weakness. The ruble lacked international credibility. Oil exports sustained the system until oil prices fell in the 1980s. Stage 4 was loss of external control. Eastern Europe broke away in 1989. Stage 5 was internal collapse. By December 1991, the Soviet Union dissolved. 3 empires, 3 collapses, similar structural progression. Now comes the difficult question: where does the United States stand today? Have you ever wondered if the United States, the world's leading superpower, could follow the same path as empires of the past? It's a huge question, and history might offer some clues. Let's look at the classic pattern of decline seen in empires like Spain, Britain, and even the Soviet Union, and see how it compares to the US today. First, there's global military overreach. The US has about 750 military bases in 80 countries, with defense spending over $850 billion a year. This kind of global footprint is incredibly expensive and requires a powerhouse economy to sustain it. Next up is the currency. Since 1971, the US dollar hasn't been backed by gold. It's a fiat currency. This gives the government flexibility, especially during crises. Think about 2008 and 2020. The money supply was massively expanded to stabilize the economy, but in the long run, printing too much money can lead to inflation and chip away at people as confidence in the currency itself. This leads us to the third stage, massive debt. The U.S. national debt is now over $30 trillion, which is more than the country's entire annual economic output. As interest rates go up, the cost of paying interest on that debt skyrockets. Running huge deficits, even when the economy is growing, is like digging a hole that just gets deeper and deeper. Now, debt alone doesn't doom a country, but when debt grows faster than the economy, it creates serious pressure. The fourth stage is a decline in productive capacity. For decades, a lot of American manufacturing moved overseas. While the U.S. still dominates high-tech fields like software, aerospace, and biotech, we've become dependent on other countries for essential goods like semiconductors, medicines, and critical minerals. These supply chain weaknesses are a major strategic vulnerability. Fifth, we see social and political division. Trust in major institutions has been falling for years. The country is more politically polarized than ever. Historically, when a society becomes this divided, it's incredibly difficult to agree on and implement the tough reforms needed to fix big problems. Now, before you think it's all doom and gloom, it's crucial to understand that patterns are not destiny. The United States is not 17th century Spain or the early 20th century British Empire. America has some incredible advantages that those empires didn't. Our economy is highly diversified. We are the world leader in technological innovation. We have vast natural resources, from farmland to energy, and our financial markets are the deepest and most trusted in the world. This brings us to the dollar's unique position as the world's reserve currency. This is America's superpower. Most international trade is still done in dollars. Central banks around the globe hold U.S. Treasury bonds as their safest asset. And whenever there's a global crisis, money floods into the dollar for safety, not away from it. This gives the U.S. an extraordinary amount of economic flexibility. But history shows a sixth stage, the slow erosion of that reserve currency status. This doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process. We're already seeing some countries start to trade with each other in their own currencies, bypassing the dollar. We're also seeing central banks buying more gold. These aren't signs that the dollar is about to collapse, but they are signs of diversification. People are starting to hedge their bets. The final stage in past empires was a rapid financial crisis, once confidence was truly lost. For some, this decline took decades. For others, like the Soviet Union, it happened shockingly fast. So, what's the key variable? Sustainability. Can the U.S. economy grow faster than its debt? Can the government get its finances in order? Can we keep innovating and boosting productivity? Can we strengthen our domestic supply chains and fix our political divisions? If the answer to those questions is yes, decline can be slowed or even reversed. But if these fundamental problems are ignored, the risks just keep piling up. The most important lesson from history isn't that decline is inevitable. It's about getting the timing and the fundamentals right. Spain thought its silver from the New World would last forever. Britain believed its navy guaranteed its power. The Soviet Union thought its ideology was invincible. Each of them underestimated the importance of a sound economic foundation. Today, the United States faces a series of clear choices. We can choose a path of recalibration, fiscal discipline, rebuilding our manufacturing base, and renewing our institutions. Or we can choose to believe that we're the exception to the rule, and that the laws of economics don't apply to us. History suggests that arithmetic always wins in the end. Right now, the world still sees U.S. bonds as the ultimate safe asset. The dollar is still king. American companies are still at the forefront of innovation in AI and biotech. These are immense strengths, but you can't ignore the math. No country can expand its debt faster than its economy indefinitely. No empire can maintain its global commitments without the economic strength to back them up, and no currency can stay on top without trust. The pattern seen in past superpowers is a warning, not a prophecy. The U.S. is at a crossroads. The difference between a managed transition and an abrupt crisis comes down to awareness and action. The problem is, empires rarely see their own turning points as they're happening. They only recognize them in hindsight. The United States has not collapsed. It remains incredibly powerful and innovative. But the structural pressures are there, and they look eerily similar to what we've seen before. Because in history, the final phase rarely feels obvious until the momentum has already shifted. And when it does, it often feels sudden, even though the foundations were cracking for years. The pattern is there. What happens next depends on the choices we make right now. If you found this interesting, consider subscribing for more deep dives into the forces shaping our world. See you next time.